almost with Janelle. Hey, we'll just sell it out from under these other two.
This is bull. I'm not selling this land until everything is perfectly fair and we do this the right way. Sorry.
Imagine the scene. The lights of the camera crew are hot, but the air in the Flagstaff McMansion is freezing. It's been another brutal day of filming what is no longer a documentation of a family, but an autopsy. Kody Brown, his face a mask of performative rage and confusion, is pacing the cavernous great room. He's on one of his signature rants, a circular monologue about loyalty, betrayal, and the knife in the kidney he received from Christine, and the disrespect he feels from Janelle, and the, well, whatever it is he feels about Mary. And there, by the kitchen island, stands Robyn Brown. She isn't crying. Not her signature, camera-ready tears. Her face is pale, exhausted, and cold. Kody stops pacing and points a finger, not at the crew, but at her. I just don't understand, Robyn. We had a deal. We had a vision. Why am I the only one fighting for this family? And that's when it happens. The break. The moment the facade, held up for over a decade with glue, tape, and TLC paychecks, finally shatters. As the cameras zoom in, Robyn folds her arms and lets out a laugh. It's not a happy sound. It's brittle, sharp, and full of a profound, bottomless exhaustion. You know what, Kody? She says, her voice trembling, not with sadness, but with a white-hot anger that's been simmering for years. Keep the cameras. Keep your speeches. Keep your goddamn pride. She steps forward into the light. I just want the checks. Kody blinks, the self-righteous wind knocked completely out of him. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm tired of pretending this is a marriage. Robyn shoots back, and now the tears come, but they're not for him. They're for her. You've turned this family into a reality show business, so fine, let's call it what it is. I'll do my part for the money, but don't expect me to keep fighting for something that doesn't exist anymore. I used to want the family. Now I just want peace, and maybe a paycheck for all the pain. Hello and welcome. What you just heard was, of course, a dramatization. That specific scene, those exact words, they didn't happen. At least, not that we know of. But the reason it feels so plausible, the reason it resonates so deeply with millions of viewers who have watched the slow, agonizing decay of the Brown family, is because it feels like the truth. It's the unspoken text of every recent season of Sister Wives. The family is gone. The dream of plural marriage is dead, buried somewhere in the unbuilt dirt of Coyote Pass. The only thing left holding Kody and Robyn Brown together isn't love, or faith, or even loyalty. It's a business arrangement. A toxic, codependent, financially desperate contract with each other and with the television network that funds their lives. Today, we are doing a deep dive into this very concept. We're moving past the sob-bin Robyn caricature and the angry Kody memes to analyze the grim financial and emotional reality of the last two standing. This is the story of how the Sister Wives family became Kody and Robyn Incorporated, and why Robyn's hypothetical demand for the checks is the most honest and logical conclusion to this 18-season tragedy. To understand why the checks are all that matter now, we have to remember the original plan. When Sister Wives premiered in 2010, the Browns presented themselves as a unit with a mission. They were refugees from a lifestyle they loved, persecuted for their faith, and they were risking it all to live their truth in the open. The show was the vehicle for that mission. But very quickly, the show also became their only source of income. Kody, whose previous job was vaguely described as ad sales, and the wives, who had a patchwork of part-time gigs, were suddenly reality television stars. And with that stardom came a new, all-encompassing family business. I'm not talking about the show itself. I'm talking about my Sister Wives Closet. This venture, launched in 2012, is perhaps the single greatest metaphor for the Brown family's entire dynamic. It was presented as a passion project, a way for the wives to bond and build something together, independent of Kody. The mission statement on their website, which is now defunct, read, "We have always wanted to have a business that we could work on together. We have a passion for jewelry and clothing and sharing that with others. My Sister Wife's Closet is a dream for us." But who was the face of this dream? Who was the driving force, at least according to the show's narrative? Robyn, the newest wife, the one who Kody was still in the honeymoon phase with, the one who had an eye for design, was positioned as the creative lead. Kody naturally anointed himself the CEO and head logistician. Christine, Janelle, and Mary were also there. From the very beginning, the cracks were visible. It was never truly a collaborative. It was Kody and Robyn's vision, and the other wives were expected to provide free labor, enthusiasm, and a stamp of plural family approval. We saw the tension in scenes where Christine expressed frustration, where Janelle looked utterly bewildered by the financials, and where Mary just tried to be the team player. The business itself was, to put it kindly, a disaster. The products were generic, vastly overpriced, and marketed to a niche audience that was more interested in the family's drama than their jewelry. But the real problem was Kody's management. He had grandiose visions, demanding the wives work like dogs, and seeming to sink vast amounts of the family's TLC money into this bottomless pit. But more importantly, it was the first time the family's finances and Robyn's influence became visibly, painfully intertwined. Robyn's passion project became Kody's obsession, and Kody's obsession became a financial drain on the entire family. This is a critical piece of the puzzle. From the moment Robyn entered the family, she was tied not just to Kody's heart, but to his wallet and his ego. She wasn't just a sister wife, she was a business partner. When my sister wife's closet inevitably failed, it wasn't just a failed business. It was the first clear sign that Kody and Robyn's vision was a financial black hole that the other three wives were expected to fund. The checks from TLC weren't just for living. They were for funding Kody's and, by extension, Robyn's dreams. This set a precedent that would come to define the family's entire existence. The show is the primary business, and all other wives are, in essence, employees funding the lifestyle of the CEO and his favored executive. When the other employees finally left, what remained? A CEO and an executive with no one left to do the work, and a business, the show, that is now only about their failing partnership. If my sister wife's closet was the seat of financial dysfunction, the move from Las Vegas to Flagstaff was the poison fertilizer that killed the entire farm. The Vegas cul-de-sac, for all its interpersonal drama, was the peak of the Brown family's stability. 4 custom-built homes, side by side, a compound that represented their brand. They were financially over-leveraged, yes, but they were stable. Then, in 2018, Kody Brown gets what he calls a revelation. The family must move to Flagstaff, Arizona. Let's be clear about the justifications for this move, because they are crucial. Kody claimed it was to be in a cooler climate, to be in a more small-town, conservative-friendly area, despite Flagstaff being a notoriously liberal college town, and to be closer to, well, he never really finished that thought. The real reason, which has been analyzed to death, seems to be a complex mess of Kody's restlessness, a desire to escape the ballooning Vegas mortgages, and, according to many viewers, a primary motivation from Robyn. Her oldest son, Dayton, had been accepted to college in Flagstaff. Robyn, who has always prioritized her nuclear family and her children's proximity above all else, suddenly saw a window. Robyn played the part of the reluctant but loyal wife perfectly. "Oh, Kody, this is so hard. I love Vegas," she'd say through tears, all while her son was packing his bags for an EU. But her support, however tearful, was the only support Kody truly needed. He had his one voice of validation. And so, the family was shattered. They sold their 4 stable homes and plunged themselves into the single most catastrophic financial decision of their lives, Coyote Pass, $820,000 for a raw, undeveloped, 14-acre plot of land. Land that, to this day, has no utilities, no sewer, no septic, and not a single foundation poured. This land is the physical manifestation of all the Brown family's empty promises. But it's worse than just a bad investment. Because they sold their homes and had nowhere to live, they were forced into the absurdly expensive Flagstaff rental market. Janelle was in a tiny apartment, then an RV. Christine was in a rental. Mary was in a massive, lonely rental. And Robyn? Robyn demanded a home. This was a defining moment. Robyn and Kody used the family's communal money, the checks from TLC, to purchase a $890,000, 4,400 square foot house for Robyn and her children. The justification? The owner of her rental was selling, and she needed a stable home for her tender-aged children. Kody famously wailed, "I'm not gonna have my family on the street." But he didn't mean his family. He meant Robyn's family. Janelle, his other wife, was literally about to move into a trailer on the barren land. But the urgency, the panic, was reserved for Robyn. This is where the check becomes a weapon. The communal pot, funded by the show that all 5 of them starred in, was now being drained at an alarming rate to secure the comfort and lifestyle of one wife. The other wives, who had been building their equity in the family for decades, were suddenly living like college students, while the newest wife, the favored wife, was living in a $1 million mansion, paid for by their labor. Janelle's hard-earned money from her Vegas house was sunk into Coyote Pass. Christine's money was sunk. Mary's money was sunk. But Robyn's? Robyn's was sunk into a house in her name and Kody's name. Even the land itself, the supposed communal dream, was divided in a way that spoke volumes. When they finally divvied up the lots, Robyn was given the prime 5-acre spot, the one with the trees and the best location, because Kody wanted to be near the pond, a murky retention pond. This single move, the move to Flagstaff, accomplished 2 things. It financially crippled the family to a point of no return, making them 100% dependent on the TLC checks for survival. And 2, it physically and financially elevated Robyn's nuclear family above all the others, cementing her as the de facto head wife and Kody's only real partner, while the others were relegated to satellite employees. The pretense of equality was gone. The only thing left was the bank account, and Robyn had her hand deepest in it. If Flagstaff was the financial error, COVID-19 was the emotional accelerant. It was the catalyst that burned away the last flimsy pretenses of a functioning plural family. When the pandemic hit, Kody Brown, a man who had always been a divide-and-conquer manager, found the perfect excuse to do what he'd clearly wanted to do for years: stop pretending. He weaponized the pandemic, creating a set of hyper-strict, often nonsensical protocols that he demanded his entire, sprawling family follow. On the surface, his rules seemed to be about safety, but they were really about loyalty and control. And more specifically, they were about Robyn's loyalty and her control. The show framed it as Kody creating the rules and Robyn meekly following them, desperate for her sister wives to just do what Kody asks so the family could be together. But the subtext was blindingly obvious. The rules were created by, or at the very least in collaboration with, Robyn. They were rules that a mother with 5 children at home could and would follow, but that were almost impossible for Janelle, who had adult children, Garrison and Gabriel, with jobs and social lives, or Christine, who had a daughter, Isabel, who desperately needed to travel for scoliosis surgery. Kody used these rules as a purity test. And who was the only one to pass? Robyn. Because Robyn's nuclear family was the only one Kody was actually a part of. He didn't just visit Robyn's house. He lived there. For over a year, Kody Brown effectively abandoned his other 3 wives and 13 of his children to live a monogamous life with Robyn and her 5 kids. He used a global health crisis as an excuse to finally have what he and Robyn had clearly always wanted: a single, traditional, monogamous marriage. And this is where the checks become more than just money. They become payment for services rendered. While Christine and Janelle were left to parent alone, manage their own households, and film their own lonely confessionals about the family's collapse, Robyn was doing the work. She was managing Kody. She was dealing with his rages, his paranoia, his spiraling narcissism, 24/7. She was, in effect, the only wife still on the clock. The show, Sister Wives, ceased to be an ensemble piece. It became the Kody and Robyn show, featuring guest commentary from the ex-wives. This period revealed everything. It showed that Kody's love was entirely conditional on 100% obedience. It showed that Robyn's loyalty to her sister wives was a myth. Her loyalty was to Kody, and by extension, to the stability of her home. And it showed that the only thing keeping the family on television was the contract. Christine was filming, Janelle was filming, Mary was filming, not because they were a family, but because they were obligated to. They were, in the coldest business terms, fulfilling their talent agreements. They were earning their checks. But for Robyn, the check meant something different. It wasn't just income, it was her entire livelihood. Christine had family in Utah. Janelle had her independence and her children. Mary had her B&B and her LuLaRoe empire. What did Robyn have? She had no independent career. She had no family money, in fact. She brought significant debt into the marriage. She had no identity outside of Kody's favorite wife. The show, the checks, was and is her entire golden parachute. But it's also her golden cage. She is now biologically, emotionally, and most importantly, financially tethered to Kody in a way none of the other wives ever were. He is her retirement plan. The show is her sole source of income. For more than a decade, the dominant fan narrative surrounding Robyn Brown has been the master manipulator, the long con. The theory goes that Robyn entered the family with a singular goal: to systematically push out the other wives, secure Kody for herself, and live a life of monogamous comfort, all funded by the plural family's brand. She played the victim, used her tears as a weapon, and leveraged her loyalty to make Kody see the other wives as disloyal until he finally discarded them. In this narrative, Robyn is the villain. She won. She got the man, the house, and the checks. And there is a lot of evidence to support this. Her constant victimhood. Her "why am I being punished" confessionals. Her "I just wanted to sit on a porch with my sister wives" narrative, all while she was demonstrably having a completely separate, monogamous relationship with Kody. Her tears often did result in her getting what she wanted, whether it was a longer honeymoon, a specific house, or Kody's permanent presence. It's an easy and compelling story. But today, I want to propose a more complex and perhaps more tragic theory. Host VO. What if she is the master manipulator, but she's also Kody's greatest victim? What if she won the Kody prize only to discover that the prize is a booby trap? What if our opening dramatized scene, "I just want the checks," isn't a cry of victory, but one of pure, unadulterated regret? Let's look at what Robyn actually won. She is now, for all intents and purposes, in a monogamous marriage with Kody Brown. But she is not married to the 2010, guitar-strumming, floppy-haired, charismatic Kody. She is married to the 2025 Kody, a man who is, by his own admission on camera, broken, angry, bitter, and filled with resentment. A man who has lost 3/4 of his family and blames everyone but himself. A man who publicly rants about how his other wives betrayed him and how his children disrespect him. This is the man Robyn won. She is now the sole recipient of that anger. There are no other wives to act as buffers. There is no Christine to lighten the mood. No Janelle to be the stoic, logical counterpart. No Mary to be the silent scapegoat. It's just Robyn. She is now the sole caretaker of Kody's shattered ego. She has to listen to the rants about loyalty every single night. She has to be the one to validate his rage, to co-sign his delusions, to agree that yes, Kody, everyone else is the problem, not you. This isn't a marriage. It's a full-time, high-stress, emotional nursing job. And the only compensation for that job is the TLC paycheck. Look at her in the recent seasons. The Sob and Robyn tears are different now. They're not the "please feel sorry for me" tears of the Vegas era. They look like the tears of genuine, profound stress. The tears of a woman who is in way over her head. The tears of a woman who is, to use a modern term, touch-starved and emotionally drained, tethered to a man who seems to love his own anger more than he loves her. She constantly talks about how hard it is, how Kody is a different man, how broken her family is. She's not faking this. This is the buyer's remorse of a woman who bought a fantasy and is now stuck with a nightmare. So let's go back to our scene. "I just want the checks." This line, in this new context, is not the declaration of a girl boss villain who just pulled off a heist. It's the desperate plea of a trapped employee. It's what a long-suffering spouse says when the love is gone, but the shared mortgage and the joint bank accounts are very, very real. It means the emotional part of this contract is null and void. I no longer love you. I no longer respect you. I may not even like you. But I have 5 children to support. I have $1 million mortgage. I have no other job. You and I are now a business. You will perform for the cameras. I will perform for the cameras. And in exchange for my continued silence, for my playing the part of the loyal wife, I will receive my payment. The check is my severance. It's my hazard pay. It's the only reason I am still here. It is critically important to understand that Robyn could not have masterminded anything without the full, active, and eager participation of the man at the center of it all, Kody Brown. It is far too easy and, frankly, far too misogynistic to lay the entire collapse of this 30-year family at the feet of one woman. Robyn may have been the catalyst, but Kody was the dynamite. He is the CEO who ran his own company into the ground, lit the match, and is now standing in the ashes, blaming the employees for not being loyal to the fire. Kody's narrative has always been one of selfishness disguised as faith. In the beginning, his mission to normalize polygamy was just a righteous cover for his desire to have a rotating cast of women, new romantic energy, and a sprawling kingdom where he was the undisputed king. He loved plural marriage when it served him. He loved it when it meant new courtships, Robyn. He loved it when it meant the wives worked together to raise his 18 children, freeing him up to, well, whatever it is Kody does. But the instant plural marriage required work from him. Emotional work, compromise, self-reflection. He rejected it. He didn't just withdraw from his other wives. He actively scorned them. He punished Christine for her independence. He punished Janelle for her children's autonomy. He punished Mary for a catfish scandal that was born from his own years of emotional neglect. He systematically starved his other 3 marriages of all affection, intimacy, and respect, and then had the audacity to be shocked when those wives finally decided to stop starving. He wanted the benefits of plural marriage, the checks, the fame, the large family brand, without any of the responsibilities, and this is where his toxic codependency with Robyn is so perfect. Robyn was the only wife willing to trade her entire autonomy for his conditional presence. She was the only one willing to tell him he was right, all the time. She was the only one willing to adopt his rules, to side with him against his own children, to validate his growing paranoia. In return, he gave her his loyalty, which, for Kody, just means his presence. But what he really did was make her his co-conspirator. He dragged her into his financial and emotional mess, isolated her from the other women who could have been her support system, and made her 100% dependent on him. Kody needs Robyn to be the loyal wife. His entire, shattered ego depends on it. He needs her to be the one who stuck it out. But he has also made it impossible for her to leave. He has entangled her in the $1 million house, in the Coyote Pass debt, in the family business of the show. She can't leave. And he knows it. This isn't love. It's a hostage situation with a joint bank account. So, when we imagine Robyn saying, "I just want the checks," Kody's fictional response is just as telling. His face hardens, but deep down, he knew she was right. Of course he knew. Because he is the one who turned the family into a business. He is the one who turned love into a transaction. He is the one who taught all his wives that his presence, his love, was something to be earned, like a commission. Christine and Janelle got fired. Mary was demoted to an unpaid intern. And Robyn? Robyn is the last executive left, demanding her golden parachute for having to put up with the toxic CEO. The checks are just the logical conclusion of the corporate culture Kody himself created. So, what happens now? The original show, Sister Wives, is over. The premise is gone. The plural family has officially dissolved. Christine is remarried and thriving. Janelle is a grandmother, living her life with her children, financially independent, or as much as she can be. Mary has her businesses and is finally Finally free from the emotional purgatory Kody kept her in for a decade. All three of the original wives have won by leaving. They have their own lives, their own spin-offs, their own fan support. They got the checks, and they got their freedom too, but Robyn is still there. In the $1 million house. On the barren land. With Kody. The show continues. But what is it about? It's about the aftermath. It's about the emotional and financial liquidation of a bankrupt corporation. And the checks are more important than ever. Because now, they are all that Kody and Robyn have. They have no other skills, no other careers. They are professional reality stars whose entire skill is existing in a state of perpetual dysfunction for TLC cameras. This is the ultimate tragic irony. Robyn, the woman who hated the other wives' baggage, is now solely responsible for Kody's, which is the heaviest of all. The woman who claimed she wanted the family is the one who now has to justify its destruction, all while living in a house paid for by its profits. And Kody, the man who wanted to be the patriarch of a grand celestial kingdom, is now just the co-star on the Robyn and Kody show, a spin-off that no one, least of all its stars, seems to be enjoying. This brings us back, one last time, to that fictional moment of clarity. Keep the cameras, Kody. I just want the checks. It's the sound of a woman who has realized, far too late, that the dream she signed up for was a lie. The family was a brand. The love was a storyline. And her loyalty was a job. She has performed that job for 14 years. She has endured the public hatred. She has managed the most volatile man on television. She has sacrificed any chance of a real sisterhood or a real independent life to be the loyal one, and she's done. The love is gone. The respect is gone. The family is gone. All that's left is the contract. All that's left is the business. And she'll be damned if she's going to do this for free. The checks aren't just for the mortgage. They are, as she whispered, a paycheck for all the pain. It's the price of her silence. It's the price of her soul. The story of Sister Wives was never really about plural marriage. It was a 30-year case study in the dangers of narcissism, the toxicity of codependency, and the corrosive, destructive power of mixing family, faith, and money. Kody Brown built a corporation on the backs of his wives, and Robyn was just the last one to figure out that she was an employee, not a partner. And now she's just waiting to cash her final bitter paycheck. But what do you think? Is Robyn the master manipulator who won? Or is she the ultimate victim, trapped in a cage of her own making? Is this all just a show? Or are we watching the real, painful consequences of these lives? Let me know your theories in the comments below.